Okay, hello there everyone. How are we all? I'm hoping you can see me. We've got a few people with us already. A few of you have said hello already, which is lovely. So I'll just wait for a few thumbs up just to let me know. Hi everyone. Yes, is that yes you can see me, Jill? I'm assuming it is. Brilliant, thank you, Jean. Hi, Jean, that's great. Again, keep your fingers crossed for me today. I think I've sorted the gremlins. I don't want to speak too soon and we shan't give them any more airtime just in case, but I'm hoping things have got sorted and the picture's looking okay. So let's hope we're all good. And my microphone is working, is it? You can all hear me by the sounds of it. Can see and hear. Yeah, perfect. That's good. Oh, I just appeared in the corner then. Okie dokie. Let's see who have we got with us. We have Jill. Hi, Jill. Hi, Catherine. Hi, Karen. Oh, hi, Cheryl. How are you? Oh, Cheryl, is it? Oh, what time is it with you, Cheryl? Is it late or is it early? I have got a little app on my phone just to check. Oh, it's just after 9 in the morning, is it, with you, Cheryl? So that's quite a reasonable time, I would say. Hi, Suzanne. Hi, Viv. Hi, Kim. Who else do we have? Hi, Evelyn. Oh, thank you. Loud and clear. That's good to know. Hi, Valerie. We've got thumbs up from Valerie. Perfect. So let's get going then, shall we? Thanks for joining me this afternoon. Today, what I thought I'd do, something a little bit different. I suppose what I've got planned is probably a traditional card making sort of format. It's the sort of format that you would see on like card challenges where they show you the template to use, and it's a sort of template. It's a sort of card you would make when you first start crafting, and it's something that I've really been trying to get myself back to because it's all to do with layering and different textures on the card and whatever, using different materials. So it's something really nice. It's a real traditional type card, I would say. And basically the reason why I wanted to do that is just to show you a few products, just to show you how things can mix and match, use a couple of things that haven't been used in a little while, show you a few techniques, show you how some of the layering dies sort of build as well. So yeah, just have a little bit of fun. It's just a proper crafting session, I would say. So what I wanted to use is the Spring Foliage set that we've got here. Leaves are one of my favourite things, you know, what you go out and see in the garden. I mean, we all love the flowers in the garden, but leaves, I just find them fascinating on the trees. And at the moment, my garden, well, you can't see the grass, I've got huge amounts of leaves everywhere, which Hazel loves to go and rummage around. And actually, I've got a picture from yesterday. She was rummaging in the garden, and she looked up at me. Her coat is so long at the moment. She needs usually to be groomed like every 7 to 8 weeks, but her groomer's been away for about 3 months, so she's looking wild. She really does need to go to hairdressers. Anyway, with her coat being so long, she goes rummaging in the leaves. And she looked up at me yesterday, and it's hilarious. She had leaves stuck in her ears, on her little snout, on her beard and her snout. She looked bejeweled. She really did. She looked ever so proud of herself. And with all the leaves being all the different colours, the oranges and the yellows and the browns, because of the time of year, it just tickled me. So I thought it was really quite apt that I'd use this today. Although this is the Spring Foliage, obviously you can colour these to suit whatever time of year you want to craft for. So so this is a really lovely set. Actually, this is a really nice one, and it would be a really good base for a lot of backgrounds for my particular style of card. It's a 5x7 collection, so we have the layering stencils and we have the embossing folder. No dye involved this one, because you can see it's a nice background. So what I thought I'd do, I'd pair them with a couple of the layering dies, the floral layering dies. Now I put all 4 of them on my little invite for Facebook, so I wasn't quite sure at the time which I was going to use, but I've chosen these 2, but there's nothing to say that you can't use the other 2. They can be bought individually, but they were released as a collection. Not, I wouldn't say set, because you say you can buy them individually, but if you want to buy them all as a 4, then you can, but they work really nice as a collection. So I'll show you them all here as well, and you would have seen a couple of reels that Lisa's been doing just recently with these as well. So we have the Anemone, the Echinacea, the Magnolia, and the Fantasy Bloom. So it's a really lovely set. These actual each individual packaging, I suppose, is A6 size. So let me bring in a card. I'm making a 5x7 card today, so it's 5 inches by 7 inches, and you can see oh, actually the packaging is 5x7, so it's one of the smaller packages, but they really do have a lot of dies in them, and if we turn it over you'll be able to see the amount of dies. So I've already done lives, I think, with the Echinacea and the Anemone. I know Cheryl's done a couple of lives and Lisa's done some reels as well. So today what I thought I would focus on are these 2. So the Fantasy Bloom, which you can see here, doubles as a flower, or you can make a butterfly, or even half a butterfly actually if you look at the flower there. But I want to use the foliage from this set and mix it with the Magnolia that we have here. And also, because I'm going to be doing some layering, I've used the nested stitched torn squares. The sentiment will be the happy from the birthday hugs here, and you can see all the information on the side there. I've given you all of the item numbers and the full names of them, so if you wanted to go and search for them on the website you can. And I think right, so we have the sentiments. We have the birthday hugs. Now this is a set that I come to time and again. Actually, it's such a useful set. So they're the XL sentiments. They does actually have the happy birthday, and I do switch between using the happy and the birthday. You can die cut them individually, and also I'm using the paper pad, the Shabby Chic paper pad there. Again, it's a really nice colour palette on this one. I'm heading towards the blues first, so I think what I might need to do on another project, not today, is really make myself use the pinks and the other colours as well. But the whole colour palette on this is lovely. Let me just flick through in case anybody is new. We basically have the wood grain effect on these, and then a couple of other really nice coordinating designs. So we have the grey, and then we have it's like a crumpled paper actually, and it's got a nice sort of pink hue through there. Then we have like the taupe, and then again we have a really nice background there. We have the blues, which is what I'm using today, and then we have a nice mottled background, sort of nice distressed background. We have a lovely green actually, again with a nice, again that's got a crumpled paper effect in the background actually, so it's really nice to stamp and stencil onto. Then we have the classic what would you call that, light brownish sort of colour. These are just so pretty. These are really, really gorgeous. And then we have the pink, and then we again with the crumpled paper sort of design running through the background with a marbled effect colour. So that's the colour, that's the paper pad I'm using. So now let's get stenciling. So there's a bit of all sorts today. I've already done the die cutting, but I shall do the stenciling with you now. So I'm going to bring in the spring foliage, and if I remember I will pop up this list again up at the end. There we are. And you would have also seen the colours that I'm using there as well. So really quite autumny colours, but I'm going for, it doesn't appear as an autumn card actually, quite interestingly. So I will emboss today. I was very proud of myself last week as well that I remembered to emboss my project on the Thursday. But today the embossing is quite essential, so I would definitely emboss again today as well. So we have the background here, the spring foliage background. We have a set of stencils. There's 4 stencils in this particular set actually. So this design comes together really quickly. And what I'm going to be doing, which I thought would just show you and just perhaps remind you, I suppose, because we can get so set in our ways, that I'm actually going to be stenciling onto coloured cardstock today. I'm actually stenciling onto blue. Now this is just from my stash. It's not coated, but it's got a really nice smooth texture, and it's just a lovely colour. I think I've only got 1 sheet left, so it's really nice to be able to use it. So I'm stenciling onto this today, and my thought was that the blue will be the sky, and then we'll have the foliage in front of that, which I will be stenciling in the green. But it's the foliage against the sky. So I always have some sort of, not necessarily story, but I have a reason to the colour choices that I make. It just sort of puts me on the right track to come up with a card, I suppose. And I suppose I'm secretly wishing for some blue sky. Haven't seen it in a little while, although the weather has been really mild. So I can't complain at all. So as I say, this set is a 5x7 set, but I've already die cut myself a square from the nested torn squares, so I don't have to do the die cutting afterwards. But if you wanted to actually stencil the whole amount and then die cut your layer afterwards, or use the whole amount, then that would be the way to a good way to do that as well. And when I was actually sort of thinking and prepping out the card, that's exactly what I done. I actually stenciled the whole lot and then die cut it afterwards. But for the purposes of being with you today, I have just die cut the smaller layer, and I'm just going to lay that into an area of the stencil there. It doesn't really matter which area you choose at this stage. So I'm going to use woodland moss and start stenciling. Now it's so easy when we start stencil, or when we stencil, is to reach for the white cardstock, and I do it all the time, I really do. But if you choose a nice light colour like this, it really doesn't make too much of an effect on the colour that you stencil. Now, obviously, depending on the colour that you use, some of the really lighter colours like Coral Beach, and we have, what else is there? There's the Almond Frosting, and there's another one, Straw Hat, I think it is. They're really pale, so those colours may be altered a little bit by not stenciling onto white, but you just adapt the colours that you use. So I'm using woodland moss onto this light blue cardstock. So we have that there, and you can see already actually that the woodland moss, the colour really hasn't been altered. I use it an awful lot, so you're familiar with the colour. And yeah, that looks perfect on there. So that was stencil 1. Then stencil number 2 is where the leaves are coming on. Now, when I stencil leaves like this, what I attempt to do is create different sort of patches on the stenciling where the ink is different intensities. So basically, I'm not too concerned if I don't get a really nice even blend across all of this stencil design. Obviously you can do, and that would work equally as well. But because this is a background and it's sort of a nature inspired one, I do like to just be a little bit more relaxed in how the blend goes. So I mean, I get a really nice blend in the areas, but I just would perhaps make some of the areas more concentrated than others. So I'm going to put a little bit more ink on this area and perhaps down here than I would in this top corner. So that's the way that I tackle the stenciling on these backgrounds. Again, if you wanted to go for a really nice even stenciling all the way across, then obviously that would work as well. And I'll just show you what I mean by that. And you can see that there's some sort of faded areas here, some of the darker areas. I think it just gives a really nice background, a really nice what am I trying to say? A really nice random look to the background. Now, before I move this on, what I was playing around with, and I'll just bring in what I've done earlier on here. I'm not using this one because it's slightly larger than what I wanted to use. This fits onto on a square card. But can you see here that I've got an area of yellow? What I was trying to emulate, whether I did or not, but I was still happy with the background, is where perhaps the sun would be shining in and hitting in onto the leaves. And I thought there'd be a really nice concept to actually stencil into your background as opposed to just using a green background. Now, it'd be really nice to do for autumny colours as well. I think if you could do this and then perhaps add a little bit of red or perhaps a little bit of the rusty nails for some of the more orange leaves that are out there at the moment, I think that would work really nicely. And that's perhaps something I will do another time actually, and just sort of change it up. This really is definitely a spring coloured card, but I think I might try and do that with the autumny colours as well. But to do this, say what I was doing, I was just sort of playing around with the techniques really. And because I've got this area where I haven't stenciled as much of the green, I'm just going to use this area to stencil onto the yellow. Okay, and I know this is going over some of the green, and you could have perhaps not added the green first, but I don't think it makes too much of a difference. So I'm just going to create what would be like a stroke of sunlight or a shaft of sunlight coming down into this foliage. It's just a nice different technique to perhaps think about when you're stenciling. Other ways of doing this, you could add lots of different colours, and Lisa's really good at this. And she's got her favourite blends of colours, I think, with a blue, a pink and a yellow. She would add just different patches of colours over the background here, and it would create a mottle effect. So this is perhaps a more structured way of using that technique. So all I'm doing is just creating like a diagonal light of perhaps sunlight down through this part of the design there. Yeah, you can see that down through there. So once you actually take away the stencil, it's not as vibrant and as scary as you may think when you are doing that. So I'm just going to add a bit more ink, I think, just to see if I can make that really stand out. Like so. And I think what I didn't do, but on this one here, I'm just going to add a tiny little bit of orange. I don't want to overpower that, but it might just add a little bit more to that yellow and just make that stand out a little bit more. I'll just add that down there. Oh, there we go. We can actually see that. And you can see actually, if you was playing with the colours, the oranges and the browns, that could really turn out to be really quite autumny. So I'm not going to put any more orange on. Actually, do you know what I might do? I'm going to use the Lemon Candy interference ink. Now, I'm using this a little bit later on, but I think what might help with that, with the appearance of the sun, is perhaps a little bit of mica. So I'm going to add some of that lemon candy on there and hope that I put enough mica down just for that to glisten. So it'll be like the sun shining through a woodland glade. Okay, so I'm not going to go too mad on that. There we are. hope I can see the mica sitting on there actually. So yeah, that looks really pretty to me. No, it's just a really nice way to create a different background, isn't it? So let's continue with the rest of the stencils. We have stencil number 3. So we have some smaller areas of this foliage here, which I think we can afford to go a little bit darker on, just to give that contrast with what we've already stenciled. So I'm using a stencil brush because the areas that I'm stenciling are smaller, and also the stencil brush allows me to add colour in a lot more concentration than the larger blending brush that I've just been using. Now, there are some really small details, even right into the corners here, so don't forget those. Just these little details really do just finish off your stenciling and just make it look authentic. I mean, Lisa's so clever at putting these tiny little details in. You don't think you would need them, but they do make a difference. So when you take that away, you can see that we have those tiny little details there that looks like something is off the page. So that makes it look a more random background. And we have just a lot more sort of contrast. And actually what I might do is just go that little bit darker again. And so the beauty of using the ulti-mate here is that I can take the stencil on and off, so I can keep checking and adding more ink as I go if I really want to. There we are. So it's really made those leaves stand out. So we have the last stencil here, stencil number 4, and this is the detail for the leaves. So again, I'm sticking with my stencil brush and using the woodland moss again and just going over the top of the leaves. Again, I like this layer to be quite subtle, so I'm not going massively heavy with this detail, but it will be enough for it to just show through. This stretch through here, that is more yellowy. I'm just avoiding that for the moment. I'm just working around that. If a little bit tips over into those, I'm obviously not too bothered. But what I will do is just colour that strip with some of the yellow. And I should probably go in with the lemon candy actually. I will bring in some of that mica because I think that will make that shine quite nicely. So come in with my lemon candy, my brush. Now you can use the white stencil brushes for the interference inks. You do need to keep a set especially for the interference inks, but I find I get on quite well with these blending sponges. It's something that I used a lot of actually before Lisa brought out the actual brushes, so I'm quite used to using the sponges. So I'm just going to add a little bit more because again what I want really is that mica to shine through. I think also what would work if we used thinking about this now, if we done this in an autumn colour palette and then brought in the metallics with bronzes as well. So I might do that at some okay, so that's the bound complete there. So it comes together so quick, especially when you're only still on a small area. Put the stencils away, lift up, and hopefully I can try and show you some of the mica that's sitting there. Let's see if we can see that. Perhaps not quite. Oh, there we are. Listen there when I turn that. So whether it looks more oily or whether it looks like sun. A really nice background, I think, and cute on that little matten layer there. So I will emboss this now. Now, obviously, there's only one that I'd layered or positioned my cardstock with my stencils, so that makes it easier for me to find the exact position on the embossing folder. Now, if you're new to embossing and you have perhaps a little bit of trouble just lining up your embossing with the stenciling that you've done, the way that I do it, I don't hold the back of my embossing folder initially. All I'm concentrating on is the front of my embossing folder and my stenciled layer. So this at this stage is just sort of flapping about. I'm not too worried. So that just allows me that dexterity just to position and maneuver my stenciled layer to make sure that it's layered properly and lined up properly within the embossing folder. Once I'm happy with that, I grip with either hand, with a firm grip, the front of the embossing folder and my stenciled layer. So at this stage, and then I bring in the back of the embossing folder, and then in another position, I grip all 3 layers and keep a firm hold of that. And at any one time now, I'll make sure that I will have a firm grip with one hand on all 3 layers to make sure that my stenciled layer there doesn't move. So it might be just a nice little tip for you if you do struggle just lining up your stenciling in your folders. So I'm just going to run that through my machine now. Okay, so when I open that up, that looks stunning. And actually what I can see now, I can see as it's drying, I can see that that mica is really coming out to the fore now. And you can see if I just layer that, well, hold that against the one that I done earlier on, that mica really has made a big difference actually on those leaves. So, and I've actually lined this one up better than I lined that one up. Not that you can really tell, you'd only really notice it if you look really, really closely. There we are. So that's my background done. So I can put those to one side and I'll be using this one. So I'm going to bring in my card blank, which is a 5x7 card blank. Burnish that down. Again, I'm going to use my design paper and I'm just going to line the front of the card. Now, the way that I like to do this, I like to just put this straight onto the card, to be honest. So what I tend to do, again, no measuring. I think the way that I'll do this, I'm just going to line that up on the card as if I'm covering that. And then I'm just going to use a pencil and just mark those lines. So I'm just marking around the card blank like so. So when I move that away, you can see that I have those cut lines there. So I can bring in my trimmer and just trim that down to size. Now I will keep these bits that I've trimmed off of there because they're actually quite useful sizes to either stamp or die cut sentiments from a little bit later on or for another project. Hi Julie, do I use the Ranger mini domed sponges? I don't personally because I don't have any, but they are a really good idea, particularly to get into the smaller details, and they would work like using the different sizes of stencil brushes, but particularly they'd be ideal for the interference inks. And say I don't use them because I don't have any, but I have seen Cheryl use them. So I know that they work, but the interference inks work brilliantly with these type of blending sponges. Let's move that to one side. So we have our design paper ready to go on the front. Again, I'm actually quite simple card maker really. I'm not very good at putting too many layers on or too much fuss. So I do like things to be quite clean and simple, which is why I like to just line the back of my card blank like so. And it also means that I don't have to cut too much into this gorgeous design paper and perhaps not use it. So that's really, really pretty. So now I will have that layer sitting on the front there, which in itself with this background looks so nice. I mean, you can, if you wanted to, cut a matte and layer for your stenciled layer there would be, let me see, with the nested stitch squares, that's the size that I use to die cut my layer. There is a larger layer which equally we could cut a matte and layer for with a different colour, and that would fit onto the card as well. Maybe in a, I would probably use a grey actually that works with the background there, but I actually quite like that just sitting itself onto the design paper. Now we can start coming in with our embellishments. Okay, Cheryl, don't be late for work. I don't want to get you told off. I'll see you later on. You know where to find the replay. Okay, so I'm going to have some vellum, which I'm going to be layering onto here as well before I start layering my flowers. But what I'm going to do is rip and tear that in a second. That will be just something that just happens sort of organically, and I'll see how that figures. If you want to die cut it, then obviously once we've got our flowers die cut and assembled, then we'll be able to know better what sort of shape and size we want that vellum. So we'll keep that to one side at the moment. I'm just going to put my leaves on the front there because I know that's where I want that layered. I think what I might do, bring in a piece of white card just so as you can see how I build up the flower. So I've got my vellum there for a little bit later on. I've already die cut the leaves from the Fantasy Bloom set here, so you can see the leaves in the background, and I'll just show you the dies. So we have the Fantasy Blooms, the flowers. There should be another die set in there actually. Yes, there is. There we are. Now you can see that I've used these already, and I've already cut lots of different colours of the flowers. So these envelopes and these for these dies are perfect storage sets. Now none of what I've die cut really fits the colour scheme today, but they're sitting in there ready for me to use another time. And now I've got nice colourful confetti everywhere. Let's get rid of all of that. There we go. Okay, so we can see from the Fantasy Blooms we have lots of dies. We have 3 sets of petals which give us the 3 different sized of flowers or butterflies depending on how you want to build them. And I've done another video on that, so I won't go into the butterflies or the flowers today, but I did want to show you that the foliage, the leaves on this, which is a really lovely set of leaves, you are able to die cut individually. So whether you want to die cut 1 to 10 of those, then you can use them. So that's what I've die cut there with from an olive cardstock actually. I'll just show you there. It's got a bit of a sheen to it. So I wanted something dark that would contrast quite nicely against what I've coloured here. What I did do earlier actually, just going off on a little tangent, I did cut the same leaves out using, you see there, using a piece of cardstock that I'd coloured with the woodland moss. So basically you can do the direct to paper technique and take your ink pad and just colour your cardstock with any colour ink pad you want. Then that's how you would get a really nice sort of coordination between the colours of your die cuts and perhaps what you might have stenciled. So that's another technique perhaps you could use. Now I possibly won't use this in this one because it's a bit too pale for me, but I'll definitely keep that for later. But it's if you want that complete coordination, then you can use your ink pads to colour tint your cardstock. So also from the same olivey cardstock, I've used to die cut the elements from the Magnolia. Now I'm using this die cut as a whole. So let me put that just there so you can see. And I'll bring in the rest of the die. So this is the die set for the Magnolia here. You have the foliage again, which you could use on its own actually. It's a really nice wild flower looking. If you cut that from black, this would look really nice sitting as silhouettes against anything that you stencil actually. But you also see here the flowers and the blooms that I've die cut. So we have this particular die, which gives us all the petals for this larger flower here. And using that same technique, actually, directly colouring your cardstock with your ink pad, I've die cut all these petals from cardstock that has been colour tinted with the lemon candy. And I'll show you that just here. Now this is what I was using. So if I perhaps tilt that a little bit, I don't know if you can see, oh, perhaps just there maybe, that you've got all the mica here. Now this is me testing out other colours as well to layer on top of it, but you can see that I've die cut the petals from the cardstock there. So, and I wanted them quite pale at this stage, wanted a bit of colour, but I want to add the colour on afterwards. And you can see here how these petals will layer. It's quite straightforward, and if you use that one point of reference, which is this flower at the side, we can layer those here. And this one, oh, that comes from that petal there. So what I think I might do, I'm going to deal with the one flower at a time. And what I want to do is just add a little bit of extra colour to these. Now, I'm wondering whether I should have used the Coral Beach or the Early Sunrise. I don't want the colour to go too intense and overpower. So I think what I might do is start with the Coral Beach, and I'm taking a smaller stencil brush, and I'm just going to colour the centre of the flower here. I'm not adding too much. I'm just going to put that in the centre there, like so, because what will happen, I'm going to layer this petal on top here. So you have a little bit of the colour just peeking through. So that has given me the indication that I can just add a little bit more just there. Okay. Like so. And then I think what I might do, I'm just going to use my glue, the small nozzle glue, and I'm just going to attach the next petal before I add a little bit more colour on, just so as I can get the colour in the right place. Now the glue that I've added, I've only added along the bottom, which gives me the chance, if I wanted to just shape that flower up a little bit, which gives will give this Magnolia just that little bit of dimension. Now I'm wondering if I can maybe just get in a little bit closer with the oh, sorry, see my arm there, won't you? If I can just perhaps zoom in a little bit. There we are. There we are. That camera's pretty good. You can see actually just the dimension that we have on that flower. So if I don't work too quick, let me zoom out a little bit so the camera can hopefully keep up with me. You can see what I'm doing here. So I've added my second petal, and I'm now just going to add a little bit more colour just into the centre here, like so, before I add my next petal layer there. Now again, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to put a tiny little bit of glue just at the base of the petal. Now you don't have to do this, you can add as much glue as you want to, but I'm just showing you that when we layer this up, we have got that option to just add a little bit of dimension. Now I like to do this by pinching the layers together and creating that dimension while they're while I'm holding them like this, but you may want to add that dimension before you glue them. That's entirely up to you. We all work in different ways, don't we? So, but you can see what the dimension that we have sitting there. Okay, and then I know that Lisa's glue will hold that nice and tight for me. I can then add a little bit more colour here. And again, if you get familiar with using these dies, you may want to colour tint these before you do the gluing and the sticking. It's entirely up to you. So we all have our different ways of doing this. And I think what I might do, just to finish off, I will just add the colour onto this here. Okay, I can ask for your wooden. Oh, these wooden ones, I actually made them myself years ago. Because I find the ones with the handle, the traditional ones, I think with the black handle, I find them really hard to hold, and they don't, they sort of make my hand cramp. So I had to find a different way of using those blending sponges. So basically I found myself some really nice doweling in a DIY store. Got myself the Velcro patches to stick on the end, and that's what I use. Oh dear, that's giving me a that's giving you a thumbs down, but it's definitely a thumbs up. Definitely a thumbs up. So yeah, that's how I've found those, or how I created those, the wooden blending sponges. Okay, so we have our dimensional flower there, which yeah, there's 4 layers, so we have quite a lot of dimension. And what we'll do, we'd add that onto the flower in, oh, you can't see that. We'll add that onto our stems in a second. And we'll go ahead and we'll do the same with the rest of the petals that we have here. So what I've done, I've basically die cut each pair of petals that we have here and just put them alongside, so I know what it is what I'm working with at any one time. So what I can do now, actually I think with the petals, I think I'm not going to colour tint those at this stage, but what I will do, I'm going to use my tweezers and just put these together, to say a little double glue just at the base. Even if you're not creating dimension, I think I would still just put a tiny double glue on at the base, so as not to have any glue sort of ooze out from the side, really, because sometimes I can be a little bit heavy-handed, and I know this glue dries clear, but if you can prevent sort of that glue oozing out from the edge of your little die cuts, I think all the better. So you see I'm putting those together, and they're quite self-explanatory. They're very small and fiddly, but once you actually take each pair of petals and just see how they relate to each other, they actually come together really easily. So the petals do, let me just put that round that way, there we are. Each layer of these petals, and it's the same for each of the die sets, you can see how the layers correspond. You will always have a smaller layer which will sit on top at a particular position on the larger layer. Okay, so die cut them, leave them together, and then just see how those the shapes relate to each other. But you can see I've got those sitting around there. You have a, I don't know, perhaps a diagonal little base to these petals here, which is what really sort of corresponds and gives the clue as to how they layer. So I've just layered those two together like so. It can be a little bit daunting initially, especially when you look at it, but what I would say or encourage you to do is get the dies at home, die cut them first, even if it's just from plain white cardstock, just to get a grip. Just get an idea and just get familiar with the layers. and then just see how they go. And you can see all I'm doing is just colour tinting those, so now they look and correspond to that larger flower. So even with such small layers that we have here, so I'll bring that little layer in, this tiny little strip here really does correspond to that part of the die, and say it's really quite straightforward. Oh, how can I do this without getting my fat fingers in the way? Excuse me. So I just bring my tweezers in. There we go. That makes life easier, doesn't it? So you need just a tiny little dab of glue. Use your tweezers, which are actually a godsend when you're using such small die cuts. And you can layer those together like so. So I have a tiny little bit of glue there. So I can just use my ink just to colour that. And I think maybe what I might do on that one, because that's quite pale, I might just come in with a tiny bit of the interference ink and just do the same, just tiny bit of interference ink just to colour tint the top of there, and hopefully that will just impart a little bit of mica onto the top of that as well, which when it dries it will really shine. Actually, you see the mica more as it dries, not necessarily while it's wet. So we have the different components of the Magnolia put together there. So now we can start adding these to the flower. So the way that I would say, we have the largest of the cups here, which I would say goes to the largest flower. And the way I'm going to do this, I think I'm going to add the glue to the stem. You can see that there. Actually, that's a pretty good close-up, isn't it? So I'm going to just add that to the flower. I know that this glue dries pretty quick actually, which is ideal. And then we can add the rest of our flowers. Oh, that needs to dry a little bit. There we go. I think what I might do is, how am I going to do this? Okay, there we are. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put the glue on each of these positions first. Plenty of glue on. This is where these sort of really fine tip glues applicators are ideal, and I'm going to add the flowers on this way round. So make sure you turn them round, because obviously we're working on the reverse. So I'm just going to add them like so. Move that out of the way. I'm going to add that there. And then gently I can turn that over, and if I need to, I can just rearrange. Oh. Now, I think I've said in the past that I'm super clumsy. There we are. So we can add those and just rearrange them to make that look just perfect. So we have our flower built there. And I'm just going to leave that to one side just while I can swap cameras again, and we can go back to our main camera there. So we can see that we have our foliage ready for the card. So this is where now really I just have a little play and I just figure out how I want the card to look. So I can bring in my vellum and I'll just gently bring in my flowers, which I want sitting here, and I want that to have a little bit more foliage into the back. Now you can see now how this foliage works so well with this flower, but they don't come from the same set. So don't be afraid to mix and match and create little poses of flowers and things. So I want the flower to sit there, which looks really nice sitting there actually. But I think just just to make this pop a little bit more against the background, I do want to have that vellum behind. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do some ripping and tearing of the vellum, which I think is really nice. So initially, I'm just going to take off a little strip here. Okay. So that gives us a really nice rustic edge. Now, just offering this up to the card, say this is just really rough and ready, and I'm just working and just reacting to what I have in front of me at this stage. So do what's best for you. So as best I can, I'm just ripping and tearing that in a straight line. That will be my layer. I'm going to take away this nice even edge from the top. Now, the one thing with vellum actually is it has one particular direction where it tears in a really straight way. It's quite satisfying actually. So now offering this up here, I can see where my flower ends. So around about here is where I want to create that last tear. Now I want, just gently, I can sit my foliage on top of my vellum. My vellum will sit there. Now you can see that the flowers just pop, don't they? Now that they sit on that vellum there, they just really sort of come forward, but I'm not hiding the layered, the stenciling that I've done in the background. I think what I might do, I'm just going to take off a little bit more of that vellum. I don't want too much more there. Now this, again, this is just plain, isn't it? This is just pure card making, and it's something that probably, no doubt, all of you have your own ways of doing this, and just playing and rearranging and just being indecisive. Well, if you're like me, you're indecisive. Now what I'm going to do, actually, I think I might prefer it if those leaves are turned round. Oh, and have that sitting like that. Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. So I think now I'm just going to lift those up and keep that in the position that I like those in. And I'm going to come along. I'm actually going to use a tiny bit of red liner tape to attach my vellum. There's the edge there. For one, it won't make my vellum buckle, and it means that I can just add a tiny little bit of adhesive, but I know that it will stay secure. So I'm actually going to put that on the layer at the back there, and I know also that that majority of this will actually be hidden when I layer the flowers on top. So I'm going to add that there. Okay. And put my vellum on. See, that adhesive there is pretty much invisible, isn't it? And whatever little bit you can see is going to be hidden. So now I think what I might do, I'm keeping that little floral arrangement together, and just as it sits, I'm just going to add the glue to the back. Just little dabs as we go along. Okay. There we are. So add little dabs there so I can put that onto the card. There's enough glue that I've added that I know that that will stick all the different components. Just gently layer that down. Now, because it's sticking onto glue, it will take just a couple of more, just a little bit longer to set because it's going onto a non-porous surface, but it will take. There we are. So I'm happy with that. And then I can come in with my sentiment. I can add just there. And what I have done is I've stamped, oh, can you see that there? Let's leave. That's quite tiny for you, isn't it? I've stamped basically birthday hugs, but what I want to do, I don't want the hugs on there, so I just want to separate that. And this is from the, I forgot to put it on the list actually. This is from the Sentiment Strips stamp set. So you can see there that we've stamped birthday hugs just in black. I mean, you can't go wrong with stamping in black. It's it makes it pop really nicely. So I'm just going to trim off the hugs, and I shall keep that for another day, and then I can just add that to the birthday there, and that just finishes that off with that lovely little sentiment with the mixed fonts, which is another favourite thing of mine to do. But it's a really yeah, it's a really nice card. Say what I would call a nice traditional card. Again, nice when you first start your card making. It's the type of card that you go to with your different layering. It's something that I've moved away from, which I should definitely carry on doing because I really like the different textures. There's a lot to look at there. It's a really nice card just to layer up, and it's a good one to actually have a play with, and it's something that you can create 4 times over with each of these sets and create something different each time. Or you could create a whole posy of flowers to sit in the corner there with all of the different layering dies also. So again, it's something that can be totally adapted, different colours, different flowers, even different embossed backgrounds as well. So let's just bring in those there. So that's my card for this week with the layering florals. Hope you enjoyed that. I hope I've given you a couple of ideas, given you the confidence to use the layering flowers, and also jolted your memory for the spring foliage there as well. We have so much from Lisa now that sometimes we forget what we have, so it's really nice just to revisit these things. So that's it for me this week. I'm just one live for me this week. I'll be back with you Tuesday and Thursday next week. Do remember that Catherine is on Highlight Crafts tomorrow, actually at 10 and 11. So there's a double show. So that'll be really fun to watch. And then Lisa is with you on, I think, Wednesday as well. I think also tomorrow. Actually, I did take a picture, but tomorrow also at 2 o'clock. Yeah, so lots coming tomorrow. So hopefully you can tune in onto the internet actually with Highlight Crafts at 10 and 11 with Catherine tomorrow, and there'll be live shopping with Lisa tomorrow from her front room, I think, at 2 p.m. So enjoy that. I'll see you back with Lisa on Friday evening. Enjoy the rest of your week, everybody, and I shall see you next week.